Well, let's take you back to the Middle East now. And Israel has passed legislation banning the UN agency responsible for getting almost all aid into Gaza, UNRWA, from operating. Let's talk to Israeli government spokesperson David Mercer, who joins us now. David, thanks very much for joining us today. In Gaza alone, there are 1.5 million Palestinian refugees registered in 8 Palestinian refugee camps. If Israel stops UNRWA from feeding them, clothing them and providing them with shelter, who will?
So, Jane, thank you for having me on. Can I just reassure your viewers that Israel will do everything in its power to ensure that aid which is going into Gazans, to ordinary Gazans, not to the terrorists, but to ordinary Gazans, will continue. And we'll continue working with other UN aid agencies to make sure that these organizations continue to provide the level of service which Gazans deserve. But can I share with you why the Israeli Knesset have taken the action they've taken?
Well, I'm sure you will.
Only with your permission, Jane.
Well, we understand why. Israel has made it clear that they are concerned about links between some UNRWA employees and the October the 7th attacks. And also, you say that UNRWA are diverting aid and that Hamas are intercepting some of this aid and it's not going to the Palestinian people.
So, yes, that's partly correct, but it's worse than that, unfortunately, because UNRWA employees have become exposed as the terrorists themselves, not on a small scale, not a few bad apples, but a whole rotten orchard, actually. And also because UNRWA buildings have been used as a cover for rocket launching sites. But I think the most compelling reason is that every single terrorist that carried out the outrages which they did on October the 7th, the rapes, the beheadings, the burning of families, every single one of those people were graduates of the UNRWA education system.
Well, that's because there's no other.
These schools have become dens of incitement.
But as UNRWA provides education
right,
for all Palestinian refugees, not just in Gaza and the West Bank, in Syria and Lebanon, there is no other organisation providing schools.
So that means that UNRWA are a huge problem, not because of UNRWA themselves, because Hamas have completely infiltrated the organization and taken it over, so that all the main levers of power inside UNRWA on the ground are actually controlled by Hamas. So that means that they get a pro-terrorist education, they get a pro-jihadi organization. Now, we here in Israel believe that our people are not going anywhere, but we also believe that Gazans are not going anywhere, which means that we need a better future for Gazans as well. They need to get a better deal. And to have this conflict perpetuated, to have this jihadism, this death cult perpetuated in their school system, that is not the future. We don't want to be fighting this war again in 2 years' time. Gazans deserve a better future. They deserve an organization which does not seek their death, because Hamas are not upset that civilians are being killed. They only wish that 10 times more have been killed. And we want more of this aid to go to the ordinary Gazans for a better future for them and not to the Hamas terrorist organization.
You say that pro-jihadi and pro-terrorist, but a number of other countries paused funding for UNRWA and launched their own investigations after those allegations about October the 7th, but they are now supporting them again. Matthew Miller from the US State Department said that they really play an irreplaceable role right now in Gaza. There's nobody that can replace them right now in the middle of the crisis. We've also had a joint statement from Canada, Australia, France, Germany, Japan, South Korea and the UK expressing concern, saying the agency provides essential and life-saving humanitarian aid and that the provision of it will be severely hampered, if not impossible, without it. These are organisations, these are countries that say this is essential. They don't support what you're doing.
So they don't support it because they don't have to live here. We do live here. This is a homeland for the Jewish people, together with other people that live here. This is not a far-off land of which we know little. We're not Canada compared to, some far-off province.
Affected by
this
what
is right on our
October
doorstep. So UNRWA is part of the past. It's part of the problem. And UNRWA members took part in the massacre. So now it's time for these same international countries, and we take the US criticism very, very seriously, but it's time for the international community, first and foremost the United Nations, to rethink and to do what's right in order to really be of help to Palestinians. Instead of just kicking the can down the road and sticking to former ideas where UNRWA was infiltrated, taken over, and eventually massively misused by the terrorists, it's time for an organization that actually takes care for the future of ordinary Gazans. The Israeli parliament have set that in motion. It's the right thing to do, the government believes, and that's why we're going to maintain the existing levels of aid while searching together with the UN for better solutions for Gazans.
We're out of time. I'm afraid there we must leave it. David Mercer, Israeli government spokesperson, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jane. Good to be with you.